If you're like me, you're not the biggest fan of the 9 to 5 lifestyle. It can feel like each day is a grind. You wake up, you pour yourself a cup of joe, and you put on your game face. You jump in your Honda Civic and drive for an hour listening to the latest Dave Ramsey or Graham Stephan podcast on the way to work. And you think to yourself, how come these guys on these podcasts get to live life in their own terms, creating something for themselves? Meanwhile, I'm stuck working some dead-end job day in and day out. And maybe it's not even a dead-end job. Maybe you're in a nice job with great benefits. You get a good salary, you get an employer match, you get health insurance, but deep down you know something's not quite right. On paper, this is the life you've always wanted. This is the life your mum and dad would be proud of. But there's that little inner doubt, that little feeling that won't leave you alone when you lay your head on the pillow at night. What if I didn't have a 9 to 5? What if there was another way? And this is the age-old debate that goes on in the heads of so many young men. Should I stay at my 9 to 5 or should I pursue my own path? So in today's video, I want to lay out just some quick pros and cons of the 9 to 5 life. As someone who has worked a 9 to 5 for close to a decade now, and I want us to come to some sort of conclusion. The first pro I could think of for a 9 to 5 job is a stable income. Let's face it, you always know what you're going to be getting each month and you can budget your lifestyle accordingly. You get regular paydays, you get regular contribution to your pensions or your employer match, and you can sort of build your life in and around that. And the second pro of a 9 to 5, which I have found over the years anyway, is great routine and structure. I know that I'm starting at 9 and I know that I'm finishing at 5. That means anything that I want to do after work, my laptop is closed down at 5 o'clock and I can go and do those things after work. And that is a really great benefit. And it means I can even get up before work and work on things like side hustles if I would like to. I've already mentioned one of the other perks of 9 to 5, and that's things like pension contributions, paid holidays, sick leave, and health insurance. These are just things that you will not get if you're working for yourself, and most 9 to 5s will include a lot of these. In Europe, paid time off, annual leave, it's about 5 weeks. I know in America it's a lot less than that, but in Europe we're actually looked after pretty well. Next pro is there is some career progression. Now this is something that's not easy and sometimes you have to bend over backwards to get promotions, but there are ways of playing the game, whether that is getting a promotion in work or whether that's switching jobs every 2 or 3 years to get a much better salary. But now on to the cons of a 9 to 5, and this is actually a much longer list. So you'll have noticed during the pros that it's mostly based around safety and security, but sometimes that can even be a facade in and of itself. But that's a story for another day. We're going to now look at the cons of the 9 to 5 life. The first thing is this: limited flexibility, because you've fixed hours. You can't, if you have to take a doctor's appointment, you have to book time off work, or you have to make it at some other time that's not during the working day. One of my biggest, most annoying things in life is when I have to go to the bank, because it seems where I live, all the banks are closed at the exact times that I'm working. So I can only really go to the bank on a day off, which is super, super annoying. The second con to a 9 to 5 is the commute. So if you can't work remote, you're wasting so much time and so much money through opportunity cost by commuting, and it's just so draining, a commute. I did it for so long and I absolutely hated it. I'm either paying petrol money or I'm paying really expensive public transport costs and parking costs to get into work. The next thing is this: you've no autonomy, you've less control over what projects you work on and how you work. Basically, if your employer says jump, you say how high. That is what it's like where I've worked over the years anyway. The next thing is this: there's a risk of burnout. Definitely I've experienced mild kind of symptoms of burnout over the years, and times where you're pushing for a big project, pushing for deadlines, and it's just over and over again, repetitive things each and every day. More and more people just being on your case every single day. about what you need to get done. Leading on to that then is performance pressures. If you don't meet those deadlines and if you don't meet those targets, you'll be hauled through the coals for it in your next performance review, and that is just fact. And the last thing is this, and this is probably the most important thing: you have less control over your income. Yes, you'll get a set amount every single month. It might be £3,000, $4,000, and you know that's what you're getting each month in your paycheck. But of those £3,000, you could have actually added £20,000 of value to your company, where if you had some ownership in the company, you could actually get a share of that in return. But because you're only a 9-to-5 wage slave, essentially, you're only getting whatever your fixed salary is for this month. So you've less control over your income. There's a fixed upside and a fixed downside, but it's that fixed upside that is super annoying with a 9-to-5. So that's a pretty big list so far of cons for the 9-to-5, but I think the two kickers for me are, one, the lack of freedom, and two, having to play the corporate game. The lack of freedom is crazy in a 9-to-5. You literally are chained to your desk for 8 whole hours every day, because you better not let that little green Microsoft Teams icon turn from green to yellow, or you'll have your manager breathing down your neck. And you might have some time to enjoy a lunchtime walk, but then again, some people just love to schedule those quick meetings during lunch a couple of times a week. Even when you get up to make yourself a cup of coffee, you're almost guaranteed someone will call you in those 4 minutes since you left your desk. Never mind the fact that if you're on a project, you have to fill out details of every little task you've done that day so you can justify how you've spent your time. And then maybe when you started your 9-to-5, you took on a big mortgage and a car payment that means you're stuck paying those, and you've got those kind of golden handcuffs, so to speak, where you need the salary every month to fund your lifestyle. But then I mentioned the worst con for me is having to play the corporate game. And what I mean by that is having to kiss the ground your managers and directors walk on in order to be considered for a promotion. Having to make small talk about the weather during those first 2 minutes of Teams meetings every day. You have those daily stand-up calls where it feels like a competition as to who in the team is the busiest. You're bending over backwards for a raise, only to be told at the end of the year that you just met expectations and didn't exceed them. Meanwhile, the guy who plays golf with one of the partners and does nothing all day gets all the bonuses in the world. And I just hate playing this corporate game. It literally feels as if there's a Dementor from Harry Potter sucking the soul right out of me if I try to be one of these corporate NPCs. And that's precisely why I'm trying to build ways to exit the 9-to-5 race. I've been doing gig work on Upwork. I've been doing online tutoring for mathematics. I've bought things to flip and lots more. And couple that with trying to bolster my investment income and grow my YouTube. And honestly, it's the trying that's giving me life. It's not the end product of actually becoming financially free and being able to exit my 9-to-5. It's just the trying that's given me that life. My lowest point in my whole life is when I nearly lost all my spark completely. I subconsciously decided I'd just give myself over completely to the 9-to-5 and start playing that game. It couldn't be that bad, right? Actually, it could be that bad and worse. That's why I decided to start trying these side hustles. Have all of them worked? No. Have I escaped my 9-to-5 yet? No. But I've got back something that I didn't have for a very long time, and that's hope. I've done the projections mathematically, and if I keep my burn rate low and my savings rate high, I won't have to work forever, even at my current salary. And that could be you too. It is possible to make side hustle money with just a laptop. I had zero copywriting experience, for instance, and was able to make over $1,000 in just a couple of months through Upwork. That's way less money than some of these online gurus will tell you that you can make, but it's still not bad, in my opinion, for someone in their first few months. So if you're feeling stuck, lost, or helpless, just know there's a way out. This video might never be heard by anybody, but if you're listening right now, take this as your sign to start literally right now. You're under no obligation to be the person you were 5 minutes ago, even 5 seconds ago. So let's go out, make some changes, and put our escape in motion. It's been Unk Mode, and I'll see you in the next one.